if you look at it, the way Rail Yatri intercity offering is kind of set up in the market, the whole problem statement essentially has been to facilitate and simplify intercity travel in India. And the way we've looked at the problem statement is not to kind of see trains versus roads, rails versus road, but to actually provide travelers an integrated platform for both rail travel and road travel, because these really are the two modes that people in our country use for stepping outside of their towns and cities. So Rail Yatri is essentially now a single integrated platform, which helps you in getting any information or tickets that you want on trains. And we know a lot of people may not get a train ticket at times. So it also offers our own brand of road services, which is our smart bus services, to make sure that we are able to ensure travel for these consumers in a safe, secure, and a reliable way. That this is what they're really looking forward to.
Got it. But the biggest problem when it comes to someone looking at rail travel is the waiting list issue, right? How have you been able to solve it? Have you been able to use technology to predict and to help consumers really? Because that's been the biggest pain point for anyone looking really to travel.
Good question. So yes, we have invested quite a bit over the years to help travelers find that right wait list on which they can expect a confirmation. However, we also realize that fundamentally there is a demand-supply mismatch in the market. There are more people willing to travel than what the system today can support, which is why we felt that it was important for us to enter into road travel space, and we have our own brand of branded fleet of bus network that essentially is trying to expand the travel options available to a traveler, where we are saying, Mr. Traveler, we know you love trains, you prefer trains, we'll do our best to help you find a seat on the train, but we know so often it may not work out for you.
And there's a plan B.
And there's a plan B for you, safe, reliable, branded bus services, which takes care of most of the pain points that current industry, I think, today has not really kind of managed to address so far.
Got it. But what really has been the learnings? You've been in the business for quite some time now. I wouldn't ask what's worked, but what will not work with the Indian consumer really? What have you been able to really find out?
Right. So if you look at the market today, I'll try and crisply put the problem statement. The problem for a common traveler in India is that flights are too expensive. They don't get a seat on the train, and they don't like to go by road, by bus, right? Which pretty much means you don't go often, right? And fundamentally, that's what we want to really address. And we are saying, while we cannot solve the first two, but we can definitely solve the last. And the way we are trying to do it is to understand what stops a traveler from undertaking a long-distance bus journey and addressing all those pain points by working through our partners and ensuring that we make all options equally feasible and equally preferable. That's where the game is.
Got it. One interesting thing, quite early on in the journey, you were able to convince Nandan Nilekani to really back you. What's the backstory? How did you really get him on board? What really caught his interest? What were the questions he really put to you before backing?
It wasn't that long a conversation, frankly. It was one of the shortest conversation I've had with so many investors that I have met over time. I think what caught his fancy was, one, the scale of the problem. I think what interests Nandan is how many people are getting affected by it? Is there a need? And is the problem statement unique to India? Because we can't depend on foreign tech to come and solve it. In our case, I think all of it fell into that checkbox category, right? And he was, I think, immediately on board. He also said that India is going through a revolution, he felt, where mobile, data, and payments are all going through a revolutionary phase of growth. So any innovation on the ground that leverages mobile payments and data is poised for success. And he's been a very strong supporter all through, and we are very glad he's on board.
You're saying it wasn't as tough as one would think of it when Nandan really came in back to it. It was very, very short conversation.
Yeah, it was about an hour's conversation, if I remember right, an hour, maybe a little over an hour. And I think he had probably done whatever thinking he had done even before maybe I stepped into the conversation room. I think he just got it. He said makes a lot of sense. Let's do it, and we should try and make sure that intercity travel in India across every town and city is made as simple as possible.
No, why entrepreneurs watching this may get excited, but it's sad. Now Nandan has indicated he will not do investments in his personal capacity, but that's an interesting backstory, really.
But he does. I think
Fundamentum through it, but
yeah,
not anymore in his personal capacity. Kapil, how right is it to say with the fact that air travel has gotten a lot more cheaper, not as cheaper as one would really want it to be, but from a metro perspective, are you seeing a lot of these travelers shift base from railways to look at air travel?
It is happening, but not at that scale. It is true that air travel today is more affordable than it was maybe 10, 15 years back. However, if you look at the last segment so I think there are two things we should keep in mind. One, every year we got thousands or more travelers who need to travel, right? Indian population is growing, so is the travel need. Second also is that we should not look at the ticket as the true comparison. An Indian consumer does not compare airfare versus train fare. And Indian consumers mentally calculate something called the total cost of journey, which includes your fare to the airport and back. If you look at a place like Bangalore, Hyderabad, airports themselves cost a 900 rupee cab one way, right? Buses will cost another maybe 300, 400 rupees. Food at the airport is expensive. Yeah. Baggage, you can carry so much of it, right? A lot of migrant people, they like to carry extra baggage when they are going to their hometowns. So fundamentally, the total cost of journey in flights is still way more than what a comparable rail and road will provide. So for distances over, let's say 1,500 to 2,000 kilometers, flights make sense. But if you're talking of less than 1,500, most people will still prefer rails or roads.
Got it. Interesting perspective there. But coming back to the business side of it, what really is the biggest driver as far as revenues for Rail Yatri is concerned? You have set ambitious targets of close to 200 million analyzed revenue run rate in the next 2-3 years. Where will a lot of this come from? Also, is this large chunk of it from the intercity smart bus that you're really betting big on?
Yes. Our model is basically a combination of trains and buses. Trains is essentially why travelers come to us. We realize Indians love trains, and we are very happy to serve them that way, right? So trains vertical for us is essentially an acquisition platform. It's also a profitable vertical for us, right? Revenue-wise, we depend on our buses. So essentially our model is, we know, Rahul, you love trains. We'll do our best to get you a train journey. However, we know so often you probably want a plan B. Here's our plan B. We've got all the equipments that we have, our local lounges, smart bus lounges, where you can sit and board the buses conveniently. We work with some of the top bus partners, operators in India to make sure that the in-transit experience is world class. We're investing a lot of tech in terms of making bus journey safe, reliable, affordable. So essentially, that's where the bulk of the revenue comes from, but the bulk of the traffic comes from our Rail Yatri platform, so that we are able to provide a very economical and a cost-effective platform that doesn't really burn money to generate growth.
Got it. Last two questions before I let you go. From consumer insights and a lot of consumer data that you have, what really are the top travel destinations that Indians are increasingly traveling using the platform really?
Okay. So interestingly, that's not changed. Most of the travel, I think less than 10% of Indians travel really to the advertised destinations like Goa or Kerala. Majority of the travel, we did some analysis some time back. I think 40% is for work. Another, I think 25-30% is meeting families, and when people go for leisure, it is basically centered around religious destinations. Places like Puri, Haridwar, Rameshwaram, Dwarka, they are by far attract the largest traffic. Lifestyle destinations, in the market that we operate is very, very small percentage of it, and that has not changed. I mean, Katra will anyway, outgun, I would say, Goa by a factor of 10x, maybe more. So I think that's how Indians typically do. They would like to club for them, but for them that's not pilgrimage. That's still a vacation. Technically, it's a vacation. So family plus coupled with a religious destination kind of accounts for most of travel that happens here.